Hi, and thank you for clicking on this video. Let's take a look at two layouts for factoring by grouping, and you can decide which one is better for you. On the left, we're going to use a traditional layout, which is a horizontal layout. In this layout, we're going to group our polynomial into two groups of two and factor the GCF out of each group. The greatest common factor between x to the third and x squared is x squared, leaving us with x minus 1. And then using the green, we're going to take a look at the greatest common factor between 3x and 3, except we're going to look at it as a negative 3x and 3 and factor out the negative 3. That is going to leave us with x minus 1. Now we can do a quick check of that by distributing through. X squared times x is x cubed. X squared times negative 1 is negative x squared. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x, and negative 3 times negative 1 is the positive 3. Now we notice that we have another GCF, and that GCF is x minus 1. So I'm going to go ahead and factor out the x minus 1, and that will leave me with x squared minus 3 as my other factor. And I have factored that by grouping using a horizontal layout. Over here on the right, we're going to use an area model layout for the same problem. In this layout, each of the terms gets its own area. So we'll go ahead and fill that in. And now we're going to factor out the greatest common factor wherever we can find a greatest common factor. Now, if we want to do this the same way we did it on the left, we would factor out horizontally, looking for the greatest common factor between x to the third and negative x squared, which would be x squared. Or we could look vertically and go for the greatest common factor between x to the third and 3x, or negative 3x. I'm going to go ahead and do it that way. That is an x. The rest of this, I can get my multiplication. So x times x squared would give me x to the third. This would have to be a negative 3, since negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Right here must be a negative 1, and I can check my last box here with negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3. And so my two factors are the base times the height. And you can see that we get the same answer we got on the left. What I like about the area model is that it gives us options for where we want to start the problem and doesn't require us to see a GCF that is also a binomial. So what do you think? Which is the better layout for factoring by grouping?